But you know who did ball out today, Mitchell?
Can I just say it for you, Rich?
Please do.
It's not Zach Wilson.
It's definitely not.
I'll tell you that much. It's his buddy Mike White. Rich?
Mitchell.
Talk to me about the Jets. They finally got their right man in there, and it's not the number 2 overall pick.
Mitchell, imagine if he was the number 2 overall pick and he was playing like this. They'd be saying everything they were saying about Trevor Lawrence about him. Hey, like, this is what he came in to do. Like, that's what I hate about this league. I hate the pedigrees. I hate, the scouts had this guy. He had all this talent. His ceiling is so high. It's shut up. Either they can play or they can't play. Like, shut up. I don't want to hear his ceiling. I don't want to hear potential. I don't want. What happened when he got on the field? He played. Did he play well? Did he live up to the expectations? He didn't. Then don't say anything else about him. I don't care about potential. Potential is the most overused, overrated thing I've ever heard. And that's all you hear with these quarterbacks, these young quarterbacks. Potential, potential, potential. I'm a production guy. Production. Mike White has production. I mean, he started 4 times. He's completed 70% of his passes, had 300 yards multiple times. He had 3 touchdowns and 300 yards multiple times. Like, he's a good quarterback. And if he just had the same moniker and pedigree that Zach Wilson had, everybody would be over the moon about what he's doing because he's a great player. But he had to earn it from the bottom. He had to grind it. He had to fight for an opportunity. There's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. And without that pedigree, you rarely get the opportunity. So people are like, well, Zach Wilson's still going to come back. Like, for what? When has he shown the kind of game that Mike White just played? At all?
I can't point one out. And
no,
I don't know
it doesn't
if we'll
exist.
Be able to. And moreover, dude, he's getting his guys involved. I mean, Elijah Moore, first touchdown of the season, ironically, as soon as Mike White is under the center and Zach Wilson isn't playing. Garrett Wilson, career day for him, 2 tutties, 95 yards, 5 receptions. I mean, this team was humming right from the jump, Mike White put all the critics to bed right away. I mean, if this is a guy that wants control of this team, first possession, boom, touchdoão. That's how you get it done, Rich.
Mitchell, they hadn't scored on the first possession the entire year. They had not scored on the first possession there were only 2 teams that hadn't scored on the first possession, and they were one of them. And what does Mike White do in his first start this season? He says, y'all want to, let's get it down the field. Let's get in the end zone real quick. Let's put that to bed. And he does it. And then you hear about how his teammates are talking about him. They talk about his work ethic. They talk about how prepared he is, even when he was the number 3 quarterback. You hear about how happy they are for him, how much fun they're having. That's when you know you got a special guy. And again, if this was the number 2 pick in the draft, if we just took everything away and swapped the stories of Zach Wilson and Mike White, and it was just Mike White drafted 2, and he's playing this well, and his teammates are saying this about him, you'd be like, hey, they made the right pick. Like, man, look, they got a franchise guy. But since he was a 5th round pick, since he's an unheralded guy, you're not talking about, they found their franchise quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback. If you're going to sit there and wait for a guy who's obviously shown he's not capable of playing this kind of football, like, it went from an anemic offense to like, oh my God, look at how many playmakers they got on the field. Like, everybody was saying the season was lost. Wait till Breece Hall comes back with this. Like, my goodness.
Mike White is the guy that organizations literally dream of. Like, I'm not going to call him Tom Brady, but anytime you get a quarterback 4th round or later, I mean, love Dak Prescott, late round guy, right? These quarterbacks are organization changers. From a cap space standpoint, they come out of nowhere, right? And the only thing holding Mike White back right now is the fact that you drafted someone else number 2 overall. Richard, I'm going to put you in a very tough position, right? You are Robert Saleh. You have a team that is 7-4, poised to make the playoff and potentially, who knows, make a run. We've talked about them a handful of times throughout the year. They've got great playmakers, young guys. What do you do with this quarterback situation going forward?
That's not a tough situation, Mitchell. That's not tough at all. I go with Mike White. I know he gives my team the best chance to succeed. I know my team is confident in him. I know he's better for the locker room. I know he's better for my defense. You heard Sauce talking about the defense like, hey, man, we were talking on the sideline. We ain't got that long of a break during the game and so long because they don't have long drives with Zach Wilson. He's not going to complete the normal everyday passes. The running backs aren't getting check downs. You see everybody's hitting on all cylinders, and they got a chance. I guarantee you the Minnesota Vikings, the Buffalo Bills, the teams that they're about to face in the upcoming weeks are definitely not as comfortable or confident as they were when Zach Wilson was playing. They beat the Buffalo Bills with Zach Wilson playing. Mike White's going to be a whole different animal for them to deal with. Whole different animal.
No question. Richard, I want to transition to another Wilson, Russell Wilson. And we'll keep it brief here because I don't want this to be all about Russell Wilson. I mean, this Broncos team is probably the biggest letdown of this season. But there was a clip from today's game that went viral. One of the defensive linemen for the Broncos, I can't remember his name right now, but got in Russell Wilson's face. And you talk about wanting to play for a teammate like the Jets are with Mike White right now, right? And now you're talking with a defense that is number one in red zone defense, playing and supporting cast for an offense that is number 32 in red zone offense. And finally, the frustrations are starting to boil over. Talk to me about what's going on within this Broncos organization. You called it from the jump of the season. I'm just going to let you take it.
It's different when the quarterback comes in and he's a rookie. He's a young guy and he struggles. And everybody can understand that. You know, you'll see guys have more patience. They'll have more understanding. They'll just say, hey, man, he's a young guy. He's going through he's learning. He's doing this. You're like, okay. But you see this stat floating around that they would have been 9-1 if they had just scored 18 points in every ball game. They've been 9-1 if they averaged 18 points. And that's tough. That's tough for a defense to deal with. And the way they were talking about Russell Wilson, if you go back to the offseason, the way they were talking about it, like, hey, we're one quarterback away. We're a quarterback away. We're a quarterback away. Then they got him, and they were like, he's the piece. He's the leader. He's what we needed. He's exactly what – they're likely going to have a worse record this year than they did last year. And they traded for him, and I told you, they signed him to the big deal before they ever saw him play. And that is troubling for a team in general. Like, sure, the teammates, nobody's going to say anything while it's happening. They're like, okay, you got the franchise quarterback. Like, things are good. Like, cool. But as adversity comes, as things kind of fall apart, as they have over the last, and he's not playing well, then the doubt starts to creep in, the anger starts to creep in, the frustration, the lashing out starts to happen. And you'll see it likely more and more throughout the season because that defense has played well enough to win some of these games this year, and they've struggled and they've lost. You know, you get in a game where you've given up one touchdown in the game and you lose the game. It's frustrating. And so that's what's going to be hard for this team going forward is that there is so much given to him so early on without, like, it's proven. Like, when I got to San Francisco, your reputation precedes you. I'm an all-pro. I'm a pro bowler. I'm a guy. But you still got to put it on tape. You can't go out there and play bad. So during the Super Bowl year, I'm an all-pro. I'm a pro bowler. Like, I've put it on tape again. I've reminded you. I've done it in front of you. So now the respect level is back to where it should be, the acclaim. Otherwise, they're just telling you about, man, I used to watch your videos. You used to be such and such and such. You used to be, man, I used to watch such and such. No, watch me now. I'm balling. And so that's the hard part for that defense is that they're playing at a high level and it's going without reward. And he's making a lot of money. He's going to continue to make a lot of money. The Denver Broncos cannot get out of that deal. The cap hits are ridiculous. I think it's 105 next year if they cut him, 85 after that, 49 after that. They have no way of getting out of these contracts. Everybody's going to call for firing people. But at the end of the day, they got to find a way to make it work. They have to find a way to make it work. And the Seattle Seahawks are benefited right now. Seattle Seahawks traded him, and right now they're sitting at the number 3 draft pick in the next draft, and I'm sure they're pretty happy with that.
I'll say it for you. I think this goes down. I would love to see. I mean, trades in the NFL are not as prevalent as MLB and NBA, NHL. This goes to show you why not a whole lot of teams trade in the NFL. This goes down probably as the worst trade, and I'm going to call it in sports history right now, Rich. I mean, you're giving up a top 5 pick, most certainly what it looks like for next year. To get a guy you got to pay $240+ million and is going to anchor down your cap space and roster flexibility for the next 5+ years. I mean, I guarantee you, if you poll Denver fan base, would you rather have Teddy Bridgewater or Russell Wilson, independent of all the nonsense with the draft picks and the cap space? You gotta have a lot of fans asking for Teddy Two Gloves back, Rich. I mean, my goodness. And it's only gonna continue to get worse and worse and worse with the added pressure going season by season by season, because we're seeing what happens with the Rams when you don't have first round picks. Different parts of your roster start to slip down, and that's what's going to happen with the Broncos. Rich, they're only going to get worse before they get better.
Right, and I almost feel bad for him because it's not like he asked for this. I guess he kind of did. He asked for the trade, but this is a lesson to teams. You do not pay people until you see them play for your team. You do not re them up until you see them play. He had 2 years on his deal, and if they would have saw him play the first 10 games, they likely would have never signed the extension. They likely would have never extended him. They would have been like, hey, okay, we see what we got. It's unfortunate. We can cut our losses or we can eat it. We can move on from this. It goes down as a bad trade. But they compounded it exponentially when they gave him such a big deal and locked him in so long term that they can't do anything. You can fire Hackett. You can fire everybody and say, oh, we fired the coaches. Well, you're still stuck with the same team, and it's not a roster that a good head coach is going to say, I'm excited to go in there and deal with that roster. It's a good defense. It's got playmakers on the defense. You got playmakers on the offense, but it's not coming together well. And it's very few coaches that'll step into that situation and be like, hey, I'm ready to take the helm. So it's like, no matter what, you're sitting there saying, fire, 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 fire. That's not always the answer. The grass ain't always greener.
I'll leave you with this, Rich. The Broncos are averaging 14.2 points per game. As a franchise, that is their worst in history through 11 games since 1966. That is that.